Beyond the Chronos Gate, where past, present, and future collide. Part 2. If you haven't watched Part 1 of this story, please go to the video description below for a link to Part 1, for you to be able to pick up here where Part 1 leaves off. A Shoeshine's Timeless Tales creation. Any similarity between real-life people or situations is absurd.
Chapter 8. Echoes of the Past. The acrid tang of burnt circuits clung to my throat like a shroud, a grim reminder of the reality that awaited me. The lab, once a haven of invention, was now a tomb of broken dreams, its silence a suffocating echo of the future Ilara had glimpsed. But defeat wasn't an option. We had a sliver of hope, a whisper of resistance against the ironclad grip of Silas Vance. Ilara, her face etched with a steely resolve that mirrored my own, led me through the labyrinthine streets of the old city. The sun, a pale ghost in the smog-choked sky, cast long skeletal shadows on the decaying buildings, remnants of a past drowned in progress. Our destination, a hidden workshop, a whisper of its existence passed down through generations of rebels, its location a closely guarded secret. Jasper Finch, Ilara breathed, the words tumbling out like a forbidden prayer. He knew my grandfather. He might be the only one who can help us. Jasper Finch, a name whispered in hushed tones, a legend shrouded in mystery. A master engineer, a rival to Elias's ancestor, Bartholomew Thorne, and a thorn in the side of the oppressive regime. He had vanished decades ago, swallowed by the shadows of the old city, leaving behind only whispers and a legacy of rebellion. The workshop, nestled deep within the bowels of a crumbling factory, was a testament to its owner's ingenuity. Machines, cobbled together from scraps and salvaged parts, hummed with a faint, defiant energy. In the flickering lamplight, I saw blueprints, intricate and elegant, defying the crude brutality of the technology that had enslaved the future. And then, there he was. Jasper Finch, his once youthful face etched with the lines of a life lived in the shadows, a glint of defiance still burning in his eyes. He met Ilara with a wary embrace, his gaze lingering on me with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Elias's granddaughter, you say?" he rasped, his voice a dry rustle of leaves. "And you claim to be Elias Thorne?" I met his gaze, my voice steady. "We come in peace, Mr. Finch. We need your help. We need to stop Silas Vance before it's too late." He studied me for a long moment, his eyes probing the depths of my soul. Then, a ghost of a smile played on his lips. "Elias Thorne," he said, "you've inherited your ancestors' knack for trouble, haven't you?" With that, he turned to the blueprints, his weathered fingers tracing the intricate lines. Hope surged through me, a fragile flame in the oppressive darkness. Jasper Finch, the ghost of a revolution past, might just be the key to rewriting the future. But even as a glimmer of hope flickered, the shadows around us deepened. Ilara, haunted by the ghosts of her family's past, retreated into a brooding silence. The echoes of Amelia Vance's chilling laugh, a harbinger of the future we fought against, resonated in the back of my mind. The battle had just begun. We held the whispers of the past, a flicker of resistance against the iron fist of the future. But would it be enough? As Jasper Finch delved into the secrets of the blueprints, the fate of two timelines hung precariously in the balance. Chapter 9. Ghosts in the Machine. The acrid tang of burnt circuits still clung to my throat like a bad memory. The silence in Jasper Finch's workshop was broken only by the low hum of half-finished machines, their blinking lights casting flickering shadows on the dusty walls. Ilara, her face pale and drawn, paced like a caged tigress, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape hatch from the impossible task before us. Jasper, a grizzled ghost of a man with eyes that held the wisdom of ages, studied the blueprints spread across his workbench. His gnarled fingers traced the intricate lines, muttering under his breath in a language of gears and pistons. "It's a marvel," he rasped, his voice like sandpaper on wood. "Thorne ingenuity at its finest." "But can it work?" Ilara's voice was a tight knot of desperation. "Can it stop Silas? Can it change the future?" Jasper met her gaze, a flicker of defiance in his eyes. "Time is a fickle beast, child. It cannot be rewritten, only reshaped." This device, he tapped a diagram with his finger. It's a scalpel, not a hammer. It can't erase Vance, but it can change the way he plays the game. Hope flared in my chest, a fragile butterfly against the storm of doubt. How? Jasper leaned back in his chair, a wry smile playing on his lips. Let's just say, he said, I have a few tricks up my sleeve that Silas and his precious Apex won't see coming. The days that followed were a blur of frantic activity. Jasper, Ilara, and I worked around the clock, fueled by a shared desperation and the flickering flame of hope. We scavenged for parts, salvaged scrap, and cursed under our breath as circuits fried and wires sparked. Ilara, her fingers dancing like silver moths on the keyboard, hacked into Apex's network, downloading blueprints, schematics, anything that could give us an edge. I, the reluctant muscle, served as a gopher, fetching tools, running errands, and trying, with diminishing success, to keep the peace between Ilara and Jasper, their old animosity simmering just below the surface. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the machine stood before us, a Frankensteinian monster cobbled together from hope, desperation, and Jasper's genius. It hummed with a low, ominous energy, its metallic carapace reflecting the flickering lamplight like 1,000 predatory eyes. Ilara, her eyes shining with a mixture of awe and fear, traced its contours with trembling fingers. "This," she whispered, "this could change everything." Jasper nodded, a grim satisfaction etched on his weathered face. "It's a gamble, child, a dangerous one. But sometimes," he looked at me, his gaze heavy with unspoken burdens, "sometimes the only way to outrun the past is to rewrite the future." With a deep breath, Ilara activated the machine. The room filled with a crackling energy, the air itself vibrating with anticipation. Then, a blinding flash of light, and the world dissolved into a swirling vortex of time and possibility. We emerged, gasping for breath, in a darkened alleyway, the stench of exhaust fumes and damp concrete filling our nostrils. The neon lights of the future city pulsed above, a stark contrast to the cobblestones and gaslight lamps that surrounded us. We were in the past, the immediate past, but a past irrevocably altered by the echoes of the future. But our victory, if it could be called that, was bittersweet. The echoes of Silas's laughter still hung in the air, a chilling reminder that the fight was far from over. We had changed the game, but the rules were still being written. As we stood in the shadows, the ghosts of the past and the whispers of the future swirling around us, I knew this was just the beginning. The battle for tomorrow had just begun, and we were the unlikely pawns in a game played across the very fabric of time itself. Chapter 10. Legacy Reforged. The workshop, once a haven of crackling gears and whispered inventions, now felt like a tomb. The air hung heavy with the echo of Bartholomew Thorne's booming laughter, a chilling counterpoint to the hollow thudding of my heart. His spectral form, faded but still imposing, stood across the workbench, the very embodiment of the past I'd tried to rewrite. "Elias Thorne," he boomed, his voice a tremor in the stillness. "You dare trespass on the hallowed ground of innovation?" I swallowed hard, the bitter tang of regret rising in my throat. "Grandfather," I managed, the word tasting foreign on my tongue. "It wasn't meant as trespass, I just needed to understand." His gaze, cold and calculating, pierced me like a spectral laser. "Understand what? The folly of your meddling? The fragile tapestry of time, easily torn by the hubris of a boy playing with toys he doesn't comprehend?" I flinched, the weight of his words crushing. He wasn't wrong. I'd come here armed with my time machine and a heart full of bravado to rewrite the past, to erase the stain of betrayal that had poisoned our family legacy. But now, face to face with the ghost of the man who started it all, I saw the folly in my arrogance. I stammered, "I just wanted to make things right, to fix the mistakes you made." A flicker of amusement crossed his spectral face. "Mistakes, boy? Perhaps you haven't seen the bigger picture, the sacrifices made, the battles won, the gears that set this world in motion." He gestured towards the workshop, its familiar walls suddenly brimming with 1,000 unseen histories. I saw gears churning, pistons pumping, the birth pangs of a revolution fueled by his ambition. And amidst it all, I saw him, a younger Bartholomew, eyes blazing with the same manic hunger that haunted my own. "Legacy, Elias," he said, his voice softening, "is not just about bloodlines or spotless deeds. It's about the ripples we create, the echoes that reverberate through time. You may not like my methods, boy, but I built an empire, forged a future for our family, for this city." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of history. I understood in that moment that my grandfather was not a villain, not simply. He was a man driven by a hunger for creation, a man who, in his own way, loved his family, even if that love manifested in twisted forms. But as the gears of understanding clicked into place, a chilling realization struck me. My tinkering with the past, my desperate attempt to rewrite history, had introduced a fatal error into my time travel device. The ripples I'd created were threatening to unravel the very fabric of time itself, and the echoes I'd unleashed could spell doom for the future I sought to protect. "Bartholomew," I gasped, urgency clawing at my throat. "The device, it's broken. I've messed with the timeline, created a paradox. We have to fix it before it's too late." His spectral form flickered, surprise momentarily overriding his stoicism. "Paradox," he breathed, the echo of fear tinged with a strange respect. "Yes," I pleaded, "the changes I made, they've destabilized the machine. It's unraveling time itself." For the first time, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in his phantom eyes, a shared fear that transcended the boundaries of time and resentment. In that moment, we weren't just grandfather and grandson. We were two thorn men, bound by blood and ambition, facing a threat that could erase both our legacies. The workshop, once a battleground of past and present, became a crucible of shared purpose. Together, we dug through dusty blueprints and whispered equations, the spectral engineer and his flesh and blood descendant united in a desperate dance to mend the fractured timeline. The fate of the future, of our family, of the very fabric of reality, hung precariously in the balance as we raced against the clockwork heart of the time machine, hoping to rewrite not just the past, but the future we were so desperately trying to save. Chapter 11. Gears of Resistance. The city throbbed with a new pulse. It wasn't the sterile hum of apex control, but a raw, ragged vibration of defiance. Jasper's blueprints, smuggled from the past by Elias, had become the manifesto of the rebellion. Replicators whirred in hidden workshops, spitting out crude but effective weapons and communication devices. Walls crackled with coded messages, carrying whispers of resistance from district to district. Ilara, the spark that ignited this fire, moved through the city like a wraith. Her cybernetic enhancements, once tools of control, were now weapons in the fight for freedom. She led raids on Apex data centers, her fingers a blur on keyboards as she hacked into their ironclad systems, releasing stolen blueprints and exposing their secrets to the world. Each victory, however small, was a blow against the suffocating grip of Apex, a testament to the power of collective rage. But Silas Vance, the cobra in Apex's gilded cage, was not one to be rattled by whispers. He unleashed his AI hounds, sleek chrome predators that patrolled the streets with cold, calculating efficiency. They hunted rebels with the precision of algorithms, their metallic claws tearing through flesh and steel with equal ease. The city became a battleground, every alleyway a potential death trap, every rooftop a sniper's nest. Ilara, ever the pragmatist, knew the ragtag rebellion couldn't win a direct fight. They needed a weapon, something big enough to crack the Apex shell and expose the wriggling mass within. Her gaze turned to the schematics stolen from the past, to Jasper's audacious plan for an energy weapon, a Tesla cannon capable of crippling Apex's central grid. It was a gamble, a desperate Hail Mary thrown against a seemingly invincible foe, but it was their only hope. The workshop, once a haven for Jasper's tinkering, became a crucible of resistance. Elias, his past and future colliding in the present, poured his genius over the blueprints, his gaunt face illuminated by the flickering light of fusion torches. Ilara, her cybernetic eyes glowing with grim determination, coordinated the assembly, her movements a blur of metal and wire. Every stolen scrap, every salvaged component was a testament to their defiance, a brick in the wall they were building against the tide of oppression. Days bled into nights, fueled by adrenaline and fear. Sleep became a luxury they couldn't afford. The city outside held its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash, the thunder that would herald either their liberation or their final defeat. The air crackled with tension, the scent of desperation clinging to the sweat-soaked walls of the workshop. Then, one dawn, a tremor shook the city. It wasn't an earthquake, but the roar of 100 engines. Apex, having learned of their plans, had come for them. The workshop's flimsy walls seemed to vibrate with the approaching storm, the metallic clang of boots on steel a death knell echoing in their ears. Alara, her face grim but resolute, looked at her comrades. "This is it," she said, her voice a rasp against the roar outside. "We fight now or we die slaves." With a roar of their own, the rebels met the storm head-on. Crude energy rifles spat defiance against Apex's laser beams, homemade EMP grenades sparking chaos amidst the chrome ranks. Ilara, a blur of silver and steel, weaved through the carnage, her cybernetic reflexes a blur as she disarmed, sabotaged, and fought her way towards the Tesla cannon, their last desperate hope. As the battle raged, Elias, his brow furrowed in concentration, worked feverishly on the cannon's core. The air crackled with raw energy, the smell of ozone burning his nostrils. He glanced at Alara, a silent promise exchanged in their eyes. This was their legacy, their gamble against a future carved from steel and silicon. The Tesla cannon, a Frankensteinian monstrosity of salvaged parts and stolen schematics, finally hummed to life. A raw blue arc danced between its electrodes, a beacon of hope in the smoke-choked air. Alara, with a final glance at Elias, grabbed the crude controls. This was it, the moment of truth. With a deafening roar, the cannon unleashed its fury. A bolt of pure energy, a shimmering spear of defiance ripped through the sky, aiming for the heart of Apex's central grid. The city held its breath, eyes fixed on the streak of blue tearing through the dawn. Then silence. A heart-stopping, deafening silence. Had it worked? Had they won? Or was this the prelude to their final defeat? The answer came in the form of a cascading scream. Sirens wailed, lights flickered and died, the city plunging into chaos. Apex's iron grip faltered, its control. Chapter 12. Clockwork Countdown. The air crackled with a warped hum, the chronosphere pulsating like a dying star in the center of my lab. Time itself seemed to writhe, caught in a tangle of my own invention. Each tick of the grandfather clock hammered a nail into my chest, a grim countdown to the world's unraveling. Sweat stung my eyes as I wrestled with the tangled mess of wires and gears. My fingers, usually so nimble at crafting miracles, fumbled like clumsy sausages. The temporal anomaly, a gaping wound in the fabric of history, was bleeding chaos, and I, the self-proclaimed surgeon, had only a rusty scalpel and a mounting terror. A flicker of movement outside my window caught my eye. Ilara, a storm of fury and defiance, danced among the sleek chrome drones that swarmed the city like metallic locusts. Her cybernetic arm, a glinting serpent, lashed out, shearing through the drones with lethal grace. But for every one she felled, two more emerged from the shadows, their cold red eyes fixed on her destruction. My heart pounded a frantic tattoo against my ribs. Alara, the embodiment of the future I fought to protect, was on the precipice of annihilation, her defiance a beacon against the encroaching darkness. I couldn't let her fall. Not now. Not when the fate of the world rested on my trembling fingers. With a primal scream, I slammed my fist on the chronosphere. A jolt of energy surged through me, the machine groaning in protest. Sparks danced, smoke billowed, and for a terrifying moment, the world held its breath. Then, a whisper, a soft hum, like a lullaby sung by the stars. The chronosphere stabilized, the warped hum resolving into a steady purr. A holographic image flickered to life, a map of timelines, each glowing thread representing a possible future. The anomaly, a jagged tear, bled through, threatening to unravel the tapestry. This was it. my chance to rewrite the wrongs, to mend the broken strands of time. But the map was a labyrinth, the path to the correct timeline veiled in uncertainty. One wrong step, one miscalculation, and I could plunge the world even deeper into chaos. I closed my eyes. The image of Ilara's defiant silhouette burned onto my eyelids. For her, for the future, I had to succeed. Taking a deep breath, I reached for the chronosphere, my finger hovering over the activation switch. This wasn't just about fixing machines, it was about saving souls. And with a single, resolute click, I plunged into the unknown, the fate of the world tethered to the fragile hope that I, the clockmaker of time, could mend the broken gears of history. The future stretched before me, a canvas untainted, waiting for the brushstrokes of my redemption. But as the chronosphere whirred, I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was watching, a malevolent presence lurking in the shadows of time. And as the familiar thrum of the machine gave way to a chilling dissonance, I knew with bone-deep certainty that this was just the beginning. The clock was ticking, and the chase was on. Chapter 13. Fractured Hourglass. The chronosphere pulsed, a dying star spitting me into the unknown. My head throbbed, the world a kaleidoscope of blurred colors. Time itself seemed to twist and groan around me, the machine's dying gasp echoing in my ears. Then, silence. I landed hard, coughing dust and tasting the metallic tang of blood on my lips. My vision swam, coming into focus on a scene ripped straight from a dystopian nightmare. Towering chrome monoliths scraped the smog-choked sky, their cold gaze fixed on a sprawling cityscape choked by shadows. Drones, sleek and predatory, wove through the concrete canyons, their crimson eyes scanning for dissent. This wasn't the future I envisioned. This wasn't the victory Ilara fought for. This was the echo of a world strangled by her rebellion's ashes. A ragged cheer ripped through the air, drawing my attention. A crowd, faces etched with a grim resolve, had gathered around a makeshift platform. On it, Ilara stood, her cybernetic arm glinting in the dying sun, a defiant beacon in the encroaching darkness. But the spark in her eyes, the fire that once danced there, was dimmed. A flicker of recognition, a ghost of the woman I knew, sparked in her gaze as she locked onto mine. Then a whisper of a smile, a silent message carried across the chasm of time. It worked, Elias. My heart clenched. It had worked. I'd fixed the machine, rewritten the timeline, saved the world. At what cost? This wasn't the future we dreamt of, not the one where humanity and technology coexisted in harmony. This was a world forged in the fires of revolution, a victory stained with blood and sacrifice. A guttural growl from behind me tore me from my spiraling thoughts. A hulking figure, clad in the obsidian armor of Apex security, lumbered towards me, its cold eyes burning with predatory hunger. Ilara's gaze flickered to the approaching threat, a flicker of fear momentarily extinguishing the fire in her eyes. In that split second, a decision formed in the crucible of my despair. I couldn't let her die. Not here. Not now. Not after everything she'd sacrificed, after everything I'd lost to bring her this hollow victory. With a surge of adrenaline that masked the throbbing pain in my head, I lunged for the fallen chronometric gauntlet lying at my feet. The machine, battered but alive, hummed with residual energy. My fingers brushed the activation switch, a single desperate prayer forming on my lips. The world dissolved in a blinding flash, the chronosphere screaming its final protest as it ripped me from that grim future and hurled me back into the maelstrom of time. I landed hard, the familiar lab floor groaning under my weight. The chronosphere, its once vibrant glow extinguished, lay silent beside me, a monument to my gamble. But as the dust settled and my vision cleared, I saw it. A single flickering light on the control panel, a testament to the machine's defiance against oblivion. It was a faint spark, a whisper of hope in the darkness, but it was enough. I had cheated death, cheated time itself. But at what cost? And more importantly, what future awaited me now, fractured and uncertain, on the other side of this broken hourglass? Chapter 14. Echoes of Change. The dying hum of the chronosphere faded as I stumbled back into the lab, my head pounding a frantic tattoo against my skull. Time had twisted and contorted, spitting me back into the present, but the future I knew was gone. In its place, a world reshaped by my gamble, a world echoing with the consequences of choice. Elara stood there, silhouetted against the lab's harsh fluorescent lights. Her eyes, once blazing with defiance, held a haunted depth, the remnants of countless battles etched in their emerald depths. The cybernetic arm, a symbol of her rebellion, seemed a stark reminder of the price paid for victory. "Elias," she breathed, her voice raspy with unshed tears. "We did it." The words hung heavy in the air, a bittersweet victory anthem choked by the ghosts of sacrifice. Jasper, my mentor, my friend, was gone. Vanished in the temporal maelstrom, his fate as uncertain as the future we'd forged. The lab, once a haven of innovation, felt like a tomb. Every surface, every tool whispered of the past, of the dreams we'd chased together. The weight of his absence pressed down on me, a suffocating cloak woven from guilt and regret. Elara reached out, her touch a feather-light brush against my arm. "He wouldn't want us to dwell in the shadows, Elias. He'd want us to live, to build something new from the ashes of the old." Her words, though laced with pain, held a spark of hope, a flicker of defiance against the encroaching darkness. She was right. We were alive, breathing, and in that breath there was a chance, a fragile ember waiting to be fanned into a flame. Together, we stepped out of the lab, blinking against the harsh light of a changed world. The city sprawled before us, a familiar canvas painted with new brushstrokes. Drones still patrolled the skies, but their red eyes seemed less predatory, the shadows they cast less ominous. In the distance, a crowd gathered, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Elara raised her hand, the cybernetic limb glinting in the sun, and a murmur rippled through the throng. She spoke, her voice carrying across the rooftops, a testament to the echoes of change we'd set in motion. Her words were not of victory, but of responsibility, of the burden of choice, of the delicate dance between progress and peril. She spoke of rebuilding, of healing, of forging a future where technology served humanity, not the other way around. As I listened to her, a flicker of warmth ignited in my chest, pushing back the cloying tendrils of grief. This wasn't the future I envisioned, not the one painted in Elara's fiery dreams, but it was a future nonetheless, a future born from the ashes of the past, a future where hope, like a fragile flower, dared to bloom in the cracks of a broken world. The road ahead would be long and fraught with uncertainty, but as Elara's voice echoed in the wind, I knew I wouldn't walk it alone. Together, we would navigate the echoes of change, carrying the torch of possibility, forever haunted by the ghosts of the past, yet forever driven by the hope of a brighter tomorrow. And in that shared hope, in the fragile promise of a new dawn, I found a reason to breathe, a reason to fight, a reason to believe that even in the most shattered hourglass, there were still grains of time left to gather, to shape, to build a future worthy of the echoes of change.
This is the end of part 2 of our story. If you liked the story, please follow along with part 3 in the next video. A link to part 3 will be in the description section below, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.